All right. How's it going? Can everybody hear me? It's 10 o'clock. Hope everybody in the U.S. had a good Thanksgiving or that celebrated that. Hello, hello. Got a couple people here. Thanks for being here early. Can you hear me? Seems like you can. I am still so new at this. See if a few more people trickle in here. All right. Maybe that's better. All right, well, you don't want to dilly-dally anymore, I guess. How's everybody doing? It's a few of us here. It's Friday night. Hopefully people have better things to do, but if you're here, welcome to my art cave. I hope not. Can you hear me? That would be bad. All right. You know, the YouTube chat does not fill up correctly in their stream here, so I apologize. Hold on, let me do this a different way, because that's what I'm trying to figure out. There we go. There we go. All right, now I can read the chats. You know, it's old guy with technology. What do you want? What do you want? Hey, we got Ninja, we got Anthony, we got Chris. Got a good crew. Got a good crew. Yeah. Still, there we go. Yeah, long week for you, Chris. Sorry to hear that. All right. So I was going to talk about how toys get decided to be made, not how to make toys per se with sculpting and then molds and they get shipped all over and whatever, but how the decision on what gets made and where those ideas come from. Because a lot of questions I get asked are, how were you allowed to do this, or who let you do this, or who did you have to convince? And I'm often left with the same answer, which is kind of like, well, I decided, or that was part of the goal So I kind of wanted to cover just how they come into being in general, and then getting through the system's a whole other part of how you make toys. Uh, but so, and again, I worked for a major toy company, so there were big plans around most of the brands I would be working on. So usually you're talking about creating a statement along a movie or a new debut of a cartoon show, or um, a new feature of some sort, and you kind of know that going in, uh, and so, or a new segment, a whole new concept of an idea off something. So take Batman the movies, and then Batman animated, and then Batman comic book. Those would be segmentations. And so sometimes ideas, first of all, as a designer in a toy company, you're always coming up and absorbing and intaking ideas and concepts, um, so that you're ready to deploy uh, with a lot of knowledge and opportunity and trends when you hit a brainstorm, or you hit a kind of figuring out a new segment or something. So either something would come onto a team or within a team and say, hey, we need a new segment or something dynamic for this next wave of movie product. And then there's a couple ways that can then be approached. I've talked about some guys would make models, and they would figure out how the actual toy would work with springs and projectiles and vacuum forming things, and that's how they would present their ideas. I was an illustrator, so I would present my ideas visually, more in the pose and the color and what it would actually look like in the end, and less so trying to show what it would do, or doing it with arrows and different things like that, versus having a model that did the flip of the weapon or whatnot. So you would get also abstract kind of things from marketing, like we need more something that really shows up on camera because it's going to be an advertised type thing, or where marketers would want something dynamic for their package presentation, so everything would have to be chrome or something. I mean, I don't want to put that on marketers, but and you're just trying to then deploy this bag of ideas that you have, and you get various stages of designers would sit around and go, hey, is this cool? Is that cool? Well, that is cool, but that would have to be a deluxe figure, not a basic figure, because that won't cost out. Oh, okay. Before I present it to anyone else, you would want to know that. And then maybe one idea would build on another idea. So I might say something that sounded interesting to me as a story point, and another guy would make a model of that because he saw it as a good toy. And then you would go and present them to the business team, the marketing team, and or you were answering their business question. Hey, we need something dynamic, right? So here's some dynamic things we came up with. Transfan, I'll get back to that one. And so you would take those through a series of higher and higher presentations and get feedback, whether it was costing feedback, engineering feedback, other design feedback, plus overall business feedback from a higher up, maybe. That then you would, before you would start making any kind of true models. And so we would have a lot of different, so that's one way to have a lot of different inroads. I laid out kind of one there. Another is you just have a really compelling idea in your head or your heart that you think is just interesting, and you go ahead and build that or draw it up, although drawing it up would have its own consequences because seeing something visually locks people in mind. It's too animated, it's too detailed, it's too hard edge, too soft edge, too girl, too boy. If it's just a model, people can kind of veneer it in their minds a different way. So sometimes ideas like that would get tossed around the building. Go from Tonka to, boys action to maybe a Nerf thing, and ideas could come to life that way. Another big way they come to life and get chosen is that they come from an inventor or an outside source that is licensing or selling their concept because they've figured some things out or patented a really particular type of thing that we think fits perfectly with a line we're working on. And so ideas would get chosen in that format sometimes. The benefit there is you have, something that's already been figured out that you can maybe drop in, and sometimes it's not figured out, but it's a patent and you're paying on it, and you get extra help to figure it out. Or sometimes it's just something you pay for, and you still got it. You're just on your own. So that's another way to ideas get in and kind of added to lines. A lot of times we'd have brainstorms with random amount of people, ideally from different disciplines, maybe even different departments. Again, you're trying to get different knowledge into new ideas, so maybe having someone from a whole other department could bring a different level of costing or something that they do different in that department that the boys action department I was in might not have done, or just be knowledgeable about hair rooting or something. If a new action property came up where that was a thing you needed to know about, it was something we wouldn't have known about anyway. And through brainstorming you can get a lot of minds on one topic, attack that topic, and kind of get a whole bunch of things down on paper, and then really decide later which ones kind of fall into buckets or really stand out. Or sometimes people, maybe you fall in love with an idea in a brainstorm, you're like, well, I'm going to go develop that a little bit anyway because it seems compelling to do so. So that's through brainstorms you can then hone and then get to ideas that sometimes you wouldn't know that came from the brainstorm, but they can get into a line that way too. So again, a lot of ways they get in, but usually it's organic from the team back out to some abstract goal. We need to make something more dynamic so that it's the same thing but different next year, or we're making a big splash because we have a brand new idea. We need ideas around that, or something's built into a show, like let's say a Beyblade, everything is, or B-Daman, the gameplay. We need gameplay ideas with marbles, all kinds of carnival ideas. And through that kind of brainstorming, you find ideas that get put into things. So that is some of the ways that ideas get chosen to then be developed further to cost out that feature, do the sculpt input, get that sculpting made, make a mold and a tool to mass produce it. But before it ever gets to that point, there's a weird period where things can linger, sometimes for years. Different ideas that people like, but they might not be costed out right, or maybe it's a compelling feature idea, but it might bounce around to different departments because just things don't line up for any number of reasons. So I think those are some of the ways you can find different toy lines in your features in your product line. Um, a lot of it is organic to the designers on that team and what they bring to the party, and how innovative they are with the money and then time and that not whatnot to make a compelling item. Uh, but that early exploration phase is some of the more fun parts, even though it's very scary and dangerous because you're trying to find the answers quick because you don't have really time to brainstorm it twice. You just don't have time, so you're really looking for the right answers. Uh, so that's about all I had to really talk about on that basic concept of how do ideas get into the toy lines. Um, so I'm going to go back to a few of these questions. How's everybody doing? Ooh. Wow. Wow, Chris. All right. The Prime poster in the back is killer. That's a painting. That is an acrylic painting of mine. So, Transfan, you ask, do show creators have any input in the creation of the toys, or is it always the other way around? Yeah, professionally, there's input, there's oversight as a licensor, maybe partner or license holder, or having some sort of oversight there from a show side. But there'll maybe be a liaison with that show that would have more knowledge in hard goods and soft goods. But there's not so much input. No, we're taking their assets and then we're toyizing stuff based on our knowledge and our research and the toy needs. So, because a good example of that is if it was up to DC, there'd only be gray and black Batman predominantly. But in my day, we were able to prove that you could do a lot of different things with that character, and it was fine. So no, the creators depends on the type of show. Like show creators of Transformers, not as much. Show creator if you're the creator of the show, whatever it might be, and it's your show, then yeah, you have a lot of say in that, but you only if you're part of the ownership of the license in that regard. How's everybody doing? Yeah, we did have a Classics Cosmos, but to my knowledge, that didn't work out. I don't think the new one is that one. Yeah, and Chris, your kids are rough and tumble, man. Wow. All right. Did Hasbro always come up with all the gimmicks that Transformers have and leave it to Takara-Tomy to figure out make it work, or vice versa, or do both sides come up with gimmicks? Yeah, each item is organically different. Sometimes it was based on the era or just who did it or what kind of partnerships were going on. Hasbro more often than not wanted to promote a gimmick, right? So minicons or Energon or combining or whatever. So in that regard, it felt like we were dictating the features, but that was more for the advertisement, promotional kind of drumbeat of whatever that play mechanic was supposed to be. but anybody can come up with a great feature. Takara actually comes up with a lot of overall concepts that then Takara or Hasbro will hone into different slots and go, oh, that'd be good for this and that, and then we'll shape it and knock off some edges or add some things for costing. At least during my era, I don't know how they do it now. I don't want to speak. I always want to be clear. I don't speak for how they do it now, but back in my day, it kind of was a back and forth. Yeah. What we left to Takara-Tomy often, at least 70% of the time, is how they transform. And why I say 70% is that other 30% is, well, we want this kind of silhouette. So that would dictate often some aspect of the transformation. Or we want this kind of vehicle, which is going to dictate a bit of the form overall. So that's why I say it that way. Aaron, what is the biggest misconception about the toy industry? What's one thing that everyone gets wrong? That's a good question. It's often the toys I was part of are tied to the mega medias and stuff, so it wasn't always kid first, if you know what I mean. And at least in my era, the say who has more say now is changed. Would you return to the job if given a good opportunity, or if you made up your mind? Oh, a good opportunity is always a good opportunity, but I don't think anybody's calling me to come back and do anything. They got capable people, at least on Transformers. Yeah, this Cosmos has been a whole thing, huh? A whole thing. Alright. Yeah, so I got a lot of my paintings are hanging up back there, or hanging out. That thing. I got a lot of artwork, and if you check out the Archer Monster store, archermonster.com, I got all kinds of goofy stuff, stuff some people have seen at shows. Did the American team at Hasbro ever have to engineer a transformation all on its own? Oh yeah, several times. And I would say not always to great effect. There was the titanium transformers that at first were, I believe, some Hasbro-led things. There was the Dinobot 2-pack that combined in Universe, I believe. That was a Hasbro-led, Hong Kong developed item to see if we could, and it was just a burden to try to do it that way. So that didn't work out. So, but kind of, if we wanted things placed a certain way, we'd have input into that. But that was about. There wasn't a lot of it. I'll say that. There was not a lot of it. Oddly specific question. Can you share anything about Deluxe Armada Prime, aka Bendy Prime? Always felt like an outlier in Armada in many ways. Well, but that item fills a need, honestly, that not everybody globally can can take the price threshold of the Super Optimus, the larger form of Armada Optimus. It's just unrealistic in a lot of markets. A package that size with a price point, even though the entertainment might get to them. And so one way, and that's your hero. So that's Optimus in every episode, and you're really saying that you can only get Optimus if you know, are at the higher end of the purchasing of the line. So what Bendy Prime, affectionately called, does is offer a more price conscious version of the lead hero, available pretty much globally for that price, even if the tighter markets, that item still was sold well. So yeah, Deluxe Prime is just that, a chance to get the leader guy in a different way. Now we built it into the show a little bit to make more sense of it, but it's a tactical way to do business, and you'll see that later with the deluxe sized Unicron and Cybertron. We didn't do it with Megatron as much, for some reason. That's one kind of thing I've been looking back and lately thinking about, is that we didn't do a lot of micro, like, build growing Megatron concepts. Something I could have done, I guess. Titanium figures were done by the Micro Machines team. They were actually done. Some of them done by a Star Wars team, but they're all Hasbro people. Some of that branding, don't get caught up in what's on the package with who might have done it. Yeah, that opens an old wound. That's funny. Oh, that combining Dinobot set came out as Energon. Yowzer. Yeah, originally it was supposed to be Universe, and it was kind of a test. Yeah, the Bendy Prime, one thing I like about him was his weapon that turns into the pistol, or the phaser, or whatever you want to call it, which is really cool. Underappreciated little character concept there. I don't know if that counts as a target master. Somebody clarify that for me. But his minicon was pretty cool. And accurate, I suppose. And you can also see it the other way. So for years, Cheetor in Beast Wars was at a kind of a deluxe, or kind of maybe Voyager price point, Mega, I don't know what they called them quite back then now, but and then, you know, they came out with that big Beast Machines giant one, because the concept is, oh, you're gonna love that character so much you're gonna want it bigger, and that works for some lines, some concepts, I guess, but not all the time, and maybe not then for Beast Wars. I don't know if we were there yet. So that would be another example. Are you said Armada Starscream's wing sword hasn't been revisited since the original? I am. I think the wing sword is a cool concept, and to me, that he has that to go against the Star Saber, because you needed more swords if you were gonna. So that was kind of a subtle build in, so that you could have a sword fight with the Star Saber. So there you go. There's a pin-up waiting to happen. Somebody draw that up. But no, I like that concept. I do like the sword wing. It's one of my favorite things. Was it still tough getting female characters in the Unicron trilogy? Yeah, yes it was. Still in a time where collectors were not anywhere near the top of the primary, so it was mostly boy action kids, and they didn't want female characters. It hurt sales, or research said that it hurt sales. And that's just how it worked out. I don't know how or why. Uh, but yeah, yeah, the Legends class. Yeah, those don't count as smaller to me. But I hear what. Yeah, totally right. Was making toys of spaceships shown on TV, ever on the table. Yeah, we looked at some of those at different times. I was able to kind of try to get the Nemesis in a few times, although I don't know if we called it that. Um, but yeah, the weirder. I mean, Transformers are fun. The best ones are why we like that when they're licensed cars is because you know it's a puzzle and you know when you've completed it. I've made it the car again, and then I got this really cool robot, and then I got the car again. The stranger the forms get, so spaceship forms and designer forms, like movie one Megatron is a good example. Kind of, what is it? You don't know when you've transformed it right. Maybe all the parts don't line up. You don't know, is it finished or is it conceptual design? You don't know. So the best ones, you do want a recognition of where the puzzle ends. So spaceships and things were difficult, for that reason. How hard was it to prove animated work by being so different? Well, we did a lot. So the question, it's a good question. Um, Gotcha, Gray. How hard was it to prove animated would work, being so different from previous lines? That was our tactical goal, to try to do something different, and we started down a couple different roads in the direction of animated, to be fair, and only got pulled further that way with Derek coming on board, and him and Eric working together to really hone a look. Um, so we had already internally sold in the idea that we're going to do something dramatically different. We are going to try to create a more elegant figural form than just something someone could recreate simply out of Amazon boxes, right? So that was a tactical goal, to do something different. So um, that's why animated is unique in its own way. So it wasn't hard at all, because I think everybody corporately, I will always talk. You kind of, if you're going one direction for a long time, you want to turn around and go a completely different direction. Maybe not backwards, but totally different, to present something new and fresh. So, new designs are more fun than repaints, but were there any repaints that you would have wanted to do given the chance? Uh, Repaints are always fun because they're a chance to try a lot of different things. Sometimes you're a little landlocked by the mold plan, so some things just become tough to do. Um, but I can't recall any particular characters that I would have done or needed to do. Um, yeah. Let's see here. All right. Just checking the stream. New designs just take more time. Repaints, kind of pop in. Hopefully you got an idea. Hopefully the forum gives you a good concept to kind of work with, or a name you're trying to use. Kind of, kind of start the process of picking a repaint color. Any accessories for characters I wish I could have added? No. Tried to do that as they come. I'm very practical. If I didn't have the budget, then they didn't need to be there. Um, mm. So, just how last minute was the original classics line from what I've heard. It was filler. No, it came a little later, but it was an opportunistic line that got dropped in right before the movie. So it was really to rekindle people's appreciation for the old stuff as the new stuff was going to unveil in a bit of a dormant period where there was no animation or not as much animation. So that's how that one worked out. Okay. Yeah. Where did the inspiration for Starscream's winged sword come from? That I don't know. I don't know. Other than I needed features for that character and something to go against the Star Saber. So I think that must have been the inspiration. Yeah, Nightwatch Optimus is cool. Repaints could be very cool or just lackluster and boring. Um, uh, Especially when they get some new parts and or graphics added, it can really, be a whole new thing. We didn't really do partials in my day. Very few. Like Skywarp and Armada. I'm sure you guys know better than I do, even. But we didn't really do them. We did new tooling, and we didn't really mess with stuff like partials or second heads at that time. That came a little bit after me, or after I got out of the toy lead part specifically. Do you know why animated Prow came with a traffic light weapon? Yeah, I think in the opening credits he spins around on one or throws one or something. That's there is a reason. We'll have to ask Eric that when the time comes. What is the thing that you think gets cut out most often when a figure goes over budget? Well, if a figure goes over budget, it's usually because it weighs too much, which changes the math all the way down the line. And or it may be a little more complex, so maybe there's more labor costs, but usually that's offset by deco being removed, and that's the thing, because that's the easiest thing. You can't once you invest in the tooling, you can't take the parts out and say, oh, I don't want that weight. It's kind of locked there. So paint is often the thing that can be removed without all the other issues, and that's just how it goes. There's very few options at a certain point on some items of what else you can do. And if it gets to that point, you're really off. Then you've dealt with a commodity change, oil is spiked, or you got hit with some late information about a patent that you might be in the potential of violating, and all of a sudden you're going to lose. You got to pay a percentage of your whatever to the original inventor, and you just didn't account for that. Things like that. What? Yep. Skywarp got a new mini-con as well. One of my favorite mini-cons. Could not tell you the name of him at the moment, but he was not in the show. I don't think so. Anyway. Was there any line that you felt that the quality of the toy lower than before? I don't know how to answer that one. Well, yeah, I don't know. Tigatron became a character from... I was sitting at the next to the team doing Beast Wars. I remember Tigatron became a character that they wanted the show to lead because anything they would have done would have then led the show, and he became his own unique character there. That's kind of all I remember. I don't know why I didn't get a Transmetal toy. Oh, that'd be a cool idea. Zapmaster. Ha! Come on, did I really name something Zapmaster? Wow. Or was that Takara's name for it? I don't know. And stuff like that in the animated, I don't know why they would change colors and whatnot. Thunder Clash. Wow, okay. What is most powerful? Minicons, Energon Stars, or Cyber Keys? Well, those are different types of power. So minicons are going to kind of be like you're taking a vitamin pill, you know, it's going to be positive for you that way. Energon Stars is probably a little more like I don't know. But cyber keys open up. You gotta kind of be a unique individual to have one of those. That is more cosmic power in nature. Energon Stars are more just right now immediate power. The minicons is kind of an enhancement of any power you would have ever had previously. So they're kind of different levels of power. In the way I like to tell stories and my goofy sense of things, I'm going to say the cyber keys are probably more powerful because you would already have a lot of energon and a lot of power probably to wield a cyber key or have the potential type of person because you're, you know, hopefully going to help defeat Unicron, right? Do you like the recent resurgence of classic overall designs? Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, not these characters mean a lot to different people, not just me. So yeah, it's cool to see them done again. Yeah, absolutely. I miss catalogs too. I had a lot of fun doing those in the comics and the cross sell and the sketch pages and all that goofy stuff. That was kind of it reminded me of the Star Wars ones I had as a kid. Even then, it was kind of unique, right? And now it's definitely like end of an era there. Now it's like, wow, God, we got to do it. Oh yeah, we're definitely a Q&A now, Anthony. Would I change anything about Sideways if I had a chance to redesign him? I think I'd just make the overall bike form stronger. You know, more details, better paint layout. But that's if I said I'm not changing the paint, I'm not changing the type of bike. You know, I'm not trying to change the head shape much. He kind of works as he does. He just needs a little more detail and kind of definition. What was my favorite toy line that I worked on, and what was your nemesis figure? That's favorite toy line. I like to say was a thing called Batman Night Force Ninjas. Kind of difficult to find good reference out there on it. It was kind of short-lived in its own thing, but it kind of a unique thing that I'm going to definitely talk about more in the coming months for sure. I can talk in long form about a lot of different parts of the business with what I can say about that. So that's the one I'm most proud of. I did every aspect of it, sold it in, and did all the design work and all of that. So that made me very proud of that one. A Nemesis figure, which I'm going to assume is something that confounded me or frustrated me. I don't know. I don't know if I have a good one for you there yet. I got to think about it. I remember when I got Metabots as a concept overall, I was kind of like overworked with Armada and RID, and that was tough. Did you ever look at all the mistransformed stock photos of figures you had a hand in designing and wonder why? Well, I don't wonder why. I know why. They're very difficult to transform. The photography models are very, very delicate and brittle, and they got a layer of paint on them that you don't want to chip or scrape or scratch. So, one, a lot of credit goes to the painters who have to take them apart, paint them, and put them back together. And two, it's very difficult to be the photographer and not want to mess those up. And it looks right. I think I'm done. Now, so I'm not surprised that some things aren't transformed correctly as a result of no one wanting to break the models or fully understanding how to communicate from Japan how they transform to a photo layout person in Rhode Island. At different times we used photography step by step. There were videos. CDs would come with transformation videos with a guy's hand, right, and everything. So there was never an easy way to know, and it's a lot of pressure to put on a photo tech, that's transforming these things in every case to get them right. That is to by no means, say that it's, great that those things were presented incorrectly. But man, when you consider how many were going through the system and everything, it's just, it is what it is, unfortunately. Not everything gets buttoned down. I mean, I often say fans have a lot of time to to look at things and digest them and look at them again and really study them and find a lot of things that, were just done wrong. No doubt, not defending that. But that decision was made in the day, and that looks good. Go, sign it off, and you don't always appreciate or know that you did something wrong. So there you go. Night Force Ninja is one of the most 90s toy lines I've ever seen. All me.